Welcome to Brother Owl's Garden. I'm Brian, and I honor your presence here today. Most of my topics are upbeat or positive, and I try to make them helpful. They are generally a feel-good, hey, that's a really good kind of a feeling. But not everything in reality is like that, and I'm certainly not a Pollyanna type that would try to spit out any propaganda that it is that way, because it's not. That's not a balanced view of reality. But a lot of these things that are not necessarily so fun or pleasant are the key to transcendence and the healing process that begins and leads with transcendence, leads to transcendence. One of the topics that fits into that category is, I think, absolutely crucial for humanity, and I'll just call it disconnect. Humanity on the whole, collectively, is experiencing a profound degree of disconnect, being offline in a sense. And what I mean is, it's in some cultures it's more evident than others, but it's a global collective humanity type of a predicament. It's affecting us as a species. We are disconnected from ourselves. We're disconnected from ourselves. And all of the other points of disconnect, I think, are rooted in that one. But they are all interconnected and inseparable, and each affects the other. All things are intertwined, etc. But the first one I'll say is we are disconnected from ourselves. Again, it's not everybody, it's just a collective statement, a general statement. And I think that the evidence is so obvious in how the world is manifesting before us, and the chaos and distress and discord and conflict and violence and chaos and the wounding and the hatred and the dualism, and opposition to everything. It's reaching a point where I almost can't believe it, except that I think it's going to get worse. But I think that those factors are the manifested symptoms or the results of what's actually going on, which of course is within, but on a collective level. Now, this can only change one individual at a time, and we must always remember that we can't change or fix anyone, but we can only work on ourselves, which is the best service we can do for anyone and everyone in the first place. Primarily ourselves. It starts with ourselves. But we are disconnected with ourselves. We have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten what we are. We have forgotten why we are. Our history, our culture, our ethnicity, our religion, all of the things that are at least outwardly manifest identifiers or pillars within our understanding of who we are all under direct assault, some more than others. But it's as if the reality is there is a deliberate and forceful attempt to debase humans from their past and their identity. And when you forget who you are and where you came from, no matter how you feel about those things, everything's imperfect, but if you forget where you came from and if you forget who you are, you better be sure you have lost track of where you're going and why you're going in the first place. And it seems that the world is reaching a fever pitch of this anomaly right now. And it's tragic. And it's playing out in the individual lives and the collective lives. You know, you look at certain people that you may know or that you have heard of or found out about, things that they are doing that are just inconceivably off, to put it very lightly. And you know, then you could extend that to communities, cities, populations. It's beyond tragic. We have lost our connection to ourselves. The other thing that we've lost our connection to is nature. We have somehow come to view nature as some sort of resource in waiting for us to consume with absolute abandon and gluttony. And on the opposite side of that are those that would kill or maim to prevent the use or, you know, consumption of any resources in nature as well. So there's a lot of contention on both ends of that spectrum as well. But we have lost our connection to nature. I always see on Instagram and things like that, you'll see this picture of somebody walking barefoot, and it'll say, "Oh, this is called earthing. If you walk outside on the earth with your bare feet, this is called earthing. It's a newly realized therapy. It's very good for your body. It helps get rid of free radicals." And I'm like, this is walking. It's walking. In other words, we're so removed from simply connecting our feet to the soil, to the earth, even if it's just for once in a while, that we have to package it and give it a proper name and isolate it and frame it and say, it's called this. It's walking. We've gotten so disconnected from the earth that we have to make almost an institutionalized formal term for walking. Except for shards of glass and rusty nails, once in a while it is a very good thing to walk barefoot, especially after the rain. You know, it does help to purify the body and the mind and the soul. But my point is that we're so removed from it that we have to make it like a calcified, encrusted, institutionalized term. It just reveals how distant we are from it. Because we're disconnected. We've lost touch with nature. And when we reconnect with nature, we're so imminently reminded of that, instantaneously, and it's so obvious. You know, if you go and find you know, a beautiful brook that runs through the forest, and you go and soak in a pool in there for a while and cool off, gosh, you really begin to remember your primal connection to Gaia, Mother Earth, Pachamama. You know, I mean, whatever name you want to slap onto it, you know that energy, and you recognize it when you reconnect with it. And when you reconnect with it, you remember how disconnected you've been with it, because it's such a stark contrast to be reconnected. It's almost like the power has been off or the internet's been out for decades, and then it pops back on and you're startled. Oh, I remember when I was connected to this way. You know, maybe the internet's not a good example to use for purity and all that, but you get the point. So we're disconnected from ourselves, and we're disconnected from nature, and we're disconnected from our tribe and our community. Now, I know that the word tribalism is a very, you know, emotionally charged and possibly politically manipulative word. I'm not talking about that garbage. I personally believe that human beings were not ever meant to live in cities. I think cities are an anomaly that were never supposed to exist according to how human beings are designed and how we operate and how we live. I believe that we were supposed to live in relatively small communities of a few hundred people, and once that population surged too much, that population should go off quite a distance and form a new community of about that size. In other words, it's like mitosis, is cell division. I hope I'm using the right word. Is that the right word? It's like cell division. You know, a new one comes and it gets big enough that it splits and makes another one. There it is. There's the model. We're never meant to live in cities, which are soul-draining, vacuous, life-sucking anomalies of human creation. We're not meant to be there. We're not meant to even be globally conscious of everything that's happening in all of humanity all at once either. I'm sure of this. We're not meant for that. So, but what I mean is we've lost our sense of belonging and participating and being an integral part of something bigger than ourselves, which is a tribe or a community. You know, whatever geographical term you want to give it, your town, your county, you know, your whatever you want to say is up to you. But the point is that everybody, okay, not everybody, but so many people are feeling outcast, rejected, not belonging, to the extent where, again, to mention Instagram, you see all these memes that say, if you feel that you don't belong anywhere and nobody understands you, that's because you're not of this world. You're from another world and you're here to fix this one. I don't know who comes up with all these fantastical, hyper imaginative theories to try and put a nice bow on everything, but that is not necessarily conclusively true. We are all feeling the effects of disconnect and the feeling of being completely misunderstood and being a misfit and not belonging anywhere is part of that. And yes, you may also come from beta reticuli and not, you know, you might be a star seed. I don't know, you know, I'm just saying it's too quick and too easy to just slap that answer onto that phenomenon of feeling detached from the tribe or a tribe. It is important, more than we think, to belong to a trusted, interdependent group of good people. That's what I mean when I say tribe. If I didn't define that earlier, I should have. That might be at your temple, or that might be at your yoga class, or it might be your group of high school buddies. Whatever, we need a tribe. No man is an island. And we don't do that well when we try to be an island. And I know this from very extensive personal direct experience. You know, as the Buddha said, the middle way. Extremes are always wrong. That sounds extreme. However, it's true. The extremes, the peripherals of things are always the wrong way. It's always the center, not because it's wishy-washy and lukewarm, but because what I mean is a sense of balance. I don't mean a sense of capitulation and compromise of high principles to the point where you've really sold out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in the context of balance. Balance between polarity, duality, and extremes. If you're going to live every second of your existence alone, good luck. On the other hand, if you're going to live every second of your existence always in the company of somebody else or others, good luck also, because both are not right on their own. A nice, healthy balance is always the key, the middle way, as the Buddha taught. We have lost our connection to spirit, especially Western people. You know, when I lived in Vietnam, it was so evident that the spirit world was absolutely right here with us. In fact, we're in it because they are like two dimensions that share the same space, in other words. They're just two frequencies that occupy the same geography, you could say that way. And I'm not saying to get into ancestor worship and all that, you know, although honoring and respecting and praying for and communing with your ancestors in a careful and pure way, I think is beautiful, and I do recommend that. But what I mean to say is, especially in the Western cultures, you know, we've just lost it. We've lost our connection to spirit. People can't even remember they can remember the names of their grandparents and not their great-grandparents, and certainly not beyond that. Whereas in the past, 3 generations occupied one home, sometimes 4 generations even, if the great-grandparents lived long enough, or if the younger generations, had babies soon enough, whichever. So there could be up to 4 generations living in the same home. Normal was 3. In the span of human history, it's only very recently that that's changed to where there's not only not 3, there's very often not 2. And how often is it just 1? So we're just not meant for this. Now, again, I'm a huge proponent of solitude and peaceful time alone, contemplative time and all that. But within the balance of the big picture is what I've learned is the best way. But as far as losing our connection to spirit, I'm not talking only about ancestors. I'm talking about our sacred soul tribe. One of the earlier episodes I did, our sacred soul tribe. Many people have never even thought of that, or have thought of it and kind of chuckled awkwardly and dismissed it. It's realer than the body you're in right now. And we're completely disconnected and offline from them. We have a sacred soul tribe who is helping you from the spirit realm as much as they're able, as much as they're welcome, as much as they're invited, as much as they're thanked, as much as they're sought after, as much as they're included, acknowledged, and recognized, even when you may not know exactly who they are, name-wise and all that. So, especially in the West, we've totally lost this. Whereas, again, in Vietnam, what I was saying, there would be people making offerings to the spirits all the time. And I'm not talking about witchcraft and things, although there are people who do that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they would put out offerings for the souls of the deceased. A Catholic might say for those in purgatory. It's a very parallel belief. And I'll do another episode later about that. I assure you that these spirits, these souls of, these disembodied souls of people who have died and, before us, it's absolutely real. As real as I'm speaking on this video to you right now. Absolutely real. But we get uncomfortable, we smirk and writhe and and laugh and brush it off, and meanwhile, it's us that's the anomaly. Spirit is real. Realer than the body you're in. There are nature spirits and elementals of all kinds and categories. The ancient Celts knew so much about it. The Shinto know so much about it. The ancient Chinese, many cultures, ancient cultures, before people learned to become ashamed or embarrassed of it or awkward at the mention of it due to their disconnection from it. Now, I'm not talking about hallucinations and, somebody that's off, imagining things that are not there. I know that you can spill into that. But what I'm simply addressing is that nature spirits and elementals as such, and the Fae, as the Irish call them, they exist. They're absolutely real. Maybe not every claim of a sighting or an experience. Of course not. Some of it is misunderstood. But I could never say to the extent that such things all don't exist. No, they do. And the blockage and the disconnect is entirely on our end, not the spirit end. It is we with blinders, not them hiding. Although they can hide too. But what I mean is the disconnect is on our end of things. The other thing, which might be the root of it all, I think that the disconnect from self and the disconnect from this one are pretty much parallel, is the disconnect from God. Now, I am aware that when I say the term God, a lot of people, for their own personal, emotional, experiential, or conceptual reasons, would prefer I didn't use that term. Okay, I do use that term. God is the term that I use when I refer to the absolute is. the highest supreme being. I do believe it's an entity that is the source and sustainer of us all. If you wish to believe that it is not an entity, that's your choice. Good for you. If you want to believe that it's just an energy, that's your choice. Good for you. However, energy is a quality, not a being. So I just happen to understand that God is a being. I don't get hung up on, God is this old man with a long beard sitting on a throne, floating on a cloud, and, up there in the sky. I reject that. But when I reject that, it is not that I'm saying God doesn't exist. I'm saying I do not identify God by that visual concept, by that idea of appearance, etc. I don't. A lot of people do. Good for you. It's up to you. But I just wish people were not so touchy about the word God. Thomas Merton and also somebody else before him, I can't remember, said, our idea of God says more about us than it does about God. There it is. Whatever buttons get pushed in you, however you're triggered, or whatever issues you have with using that word are all yours. And I've had them too, and I had to work through those. And so this is why I don't typically say the universe, because that's just impersonal and kind of like, let's not look over there at the creator, let's just only look at the creation, because I just get triggered by all that stuff over there. I don't, different religions see him differently. Oh, it's her, it's a him. Okay, let's be done with all that. I just mean the I am, the is, as I like to call it. That everything comes down to and back to and from. I'm not into the concepts and the imagery and the theology. I have shed those things to a large degree. Not 100%, Some of them are still deeply latent within me or carved within me, and I acknowledge that. But hopefully just the ones that I've chosen to hold on to, as opposed to all of the ones that I have chosen to let go, and that's a lot. But we have not only become disconnected from God, we've proactively cut ourselves off from God. And I'll use the word divinity as well. I'm equally comfortable using the word divinity with God interchangeably. So let me say it that way. We have very proactively chosen to cut ourselves off from divinity. What is divinity? Our own divinity within us. You've heard it said that we are the temple of God. Well, it doesn't mean that you are a temple of God. It means that the body you occupy is a vessel that contains the spark of divinity, which you are. It doesn't mean that you are, some space for God to rent out. You're not real estate for God. When we say that, your body is a temple of God, it's not meaning you. It's meaning the body that you occupy is occupied by this spark of divinity, which you are. As the Hindus say, you are that suchness. You are that. And if we have forgotten that we are that, and we have cut ourselves off from that, and we have made very conscious and deliberate efforts to remove any semblance of reference or inclusion of that in our lives and our official lives and our government lives and our educational lives and our online lives and everything. It's like this massive censorship of the divine essence which you are. And we are suffering tremendously from this, and it is so rampant and easy to observe in the world. Regrettably, it seems to be increasing each day. I don't know how bad it's going to get and how soon it's going to get there. But I think that if we can all, one at a time, awaken to these things that we have forgotten them, and as such we have become disconnected from them. If we can remember these things that are so inherent and crucial to our being, and reconnect with them, things can only begin to heal. Reconnect to yourself. Reconnect to nature. Reconnect to spirit, the spirit realm. Reconnect to a tribe, your community. Belong, contribute, give, participate. Give of yourself. Know what it is to be needed and wanted and to be a part of something greater than you. Even if it's just small things that you're doing to keep that going, that's fine. And finally, reconnect to the divinity within you, which you are. And it doesn't matter what religion or lack of religion, as far as institutionalized faiths are concerned. I'm not even advocating any of them for this. I'm just saying, in the way that makes sense to you, in the way that you feel at home, reconnect. Reconnect. We need to reconnect. Humanity is at the brink of self-destruction because of our disconnect. I don't have all the answers, but I can offer for this gaping wound, this hemorrhaging wound of humanity, what I have offered in this video today. Reconnect. Reconnect. At any cost. Reconnect. Thank you. And always abide in thankfulness for your highest good in the most benevolent outcome of the divine will.